Well, welcome to Round the Table Live with Chris Concern. And today we are talking about the wonderful, amazing, remarkable story of a Christian counsellor who has been cancelled by many organisations for tweeting about pride and tweeting that pride is not a virtue, but a sin. And I'm delighted to be joined today by the man himself, Councillor King Lawal, as well as by our very own Chief Executive, Andrea Williams, to discuss this case. Welcome to both of you, especially to you, King. It's great to have you with us. Let's get straight into it, King. What did you tweet and why did you tweet it?
Well, thank you for having me on the show, Tim. So what I tweeted was, I said, when did pride become a thing to celebrate? Because of pride, Satan fell as an archangel. Pride is not a virtue, but a sin. Anyone who has pride should repent of their sins, turn to Jesus, he can save you. That's what I tweeted, and I did post some other further clarifications, which was essentially stated, some further tweets that stated that I'm not calling anyone to be persecuted. I don't want anyone to be unfairly treated or anything like that. Yeah. I was just stating the biblical position on pride. Yeah. All of this had a significant backlash, but we'll get to that. But the reason why I tweeted it, because I saw a number of Calvin Robinson's tweets that morning. It was quite early in the morning. And it was around some of these pride marches. And really, it sort of put a righteous anger within me. I wasn't very happy with what I saw. It was actually quite surprising that these things were allowed to happen at all sure. in a public area, a public area, and these things would be illegal if it wasn't for this particular month of Pride. So I took to Twitter. I don't usually take to Twitter like that, but I did that day because I didn't want to be silent anymore as a Christian, and I thought, I have a right to freedom of speech and expression just like everyone else.
Of course you do, yeah. And so you just expressed standard biblical teaching that pride is sinful and something that we should repent of as with any other sin. And then you clarified you want to discriminate against anyone and so on, which is fine. So, but then, there you are. You just tweeted that thinking, this is what I feel. And you're partly angered or righteous anger because you've seen some tweets and images and stuff like that. So just tell us about the reaction then.
Yeah, so just to clarify, what I'd seen that morning was a sort of a series of tweets by Karen Robinson that was quite perverse. Naked men and women on the streets shouting things like, we're here, we're queer, we're coming for your children. That this isn't, other tweets, but ultimately naked men dancing in front of children, 4 to 6 year old children, and I just thought that's wrong. And
I just want to pop in here really as well to say, surely all of us and anyone that's watching this right now, if we've just lived through June in the United Kingdom, we've lived through multiple gay pride parades in and around the country, in almost every city, many towns. We've seen the pride flag take all the space in Regent Streets, many iconic sites where the
still up there, isn't it?
Yes, and for instance, across Tower Bridge, across council buildings, across this nation, the pride flag flying, it going into any bank, any grocery store. This was what we were seeing. But it's also right to say what King has been speaking about is that we didn't have to go far, and the images were across our screens, to watch gay pride and to see that what is being celebrated there is very overtly sexual. There is a lot of nudity, there is a lot of provocation. So, and also, of course, what we've had as well is we've had this now, not just in the streets with adults, but it's becoming into our schools. So we've got gay pride parades in school, Proud to be Me parades in schools, this being taught to primary age children. Of course, not in every school, but in many schools, it's becoming absolutely real. So in a sense, and many people feel uncomfortable by this, but kind of go silent, are scared to say anything. So there's so many people who are frightened out there, frightened to challenge this in any way, parents. But we've also then, for fear of some kind of backlash, which probably leads in, Tim, very aptly to the next question that you were actually
sure. And by the way, if you're watching live on YouTube or Facebook, we can see your comments. You've got questions you want to ask Councillor King or one of us, then do put them in there. So, Councillor King, there you are. You put this tweet out there. What was the reaction that you got?
Right, so the reaction was unbridled. I mean, I sort of expected maybe some reaction, maybe a bit of a debate with a Labour opposition councillor or whatever, but in no way did I expect an attempt on, on my life being ruined completely. So the first thing that happened was a lot of hateful comments towards me on Twitter, and then I received a call later on in the day from Groundwork Northamptonshire. I was a trustee. I was a trustee on their board for 2 years, and I got a very brutal email saying, you're essentially you have to leave immediately. No conversation, no discussion. Although I know these people, they've used my office for meetings. We've had conversations. I've lobbied and supported them for years. And then I get a call from the Conservative Party.
Did they give a reason, by the way?
The Groundwork Northamptonshire, yes, it was about the tweets. So because of the tweets, they referenced the tweet specifically, and it doesn't align with their values, so they wanted me gone. And my local group leader, he then calls me up and says that I'm suspended for 21 days with no reason at all. It's important.
This is in the council now, yeah. This is in the council.
Yes, the local
on your local council.
Yeah, the local Conservative group, the leader of Northamptonshire Council, he calls me and tells me I'm suspended for 21 days. That is their prerogative. I asked what am I being suspended for. He could not give me a reason, with no reason, but it was because of the tweet.
With no reason.
That's true. As in, nothing has been substantiated at all about what I've done. It's not been discussed. I've not had a hearing, a fair hearing, or anything like that. But 1 day is without any
suspended pending investigation, I suppose.
Yes, absolutely. And then from that point, I then get an email from Weavers Academy, a school that represents 18 to that has 18 11 to 18-year-olds in school, again emails me and says that I can no longer be governor there, or I'm suspended from being governor there because of the tweets as well. And then what was quite shocking was the library. So I get a call. This now, I believe we're on Friday now, so the tweets were on Thursday. It was the police officer, the PCSO that I was meant to be doing this joint ward surgery with, the joint police and council of ward surgery. He then calls me up and says he's received an email that because of the tweets that I posted the previous day, the library doesn't want to host host the ward surgery there anymore because of my involvement in it. I asked him to get on and do it himself in that case, but they blocked me from hosting a ward surgery in a public space, which was very, very surprising at this point.
Can they do that? Can they actually do that?
I don't think they are.
It's a public library. They can block someone from attending a public library. I mean, can they do that?
I don't have the answer to that. I don't think they. Well, I didn't think they could. This is why this one, although it was so small, was one of the most shocking things. And it almost led me to start thinking that whether this is sort of an organised, systemic, attempt to try and make an example out of me for daring to say something. Because it didn't make any sense why the library, what place you go to to borrow books, would stop me from would stop hosting a ward surgery that I'm involved in because of the.
Do remember that libraries are one of the cultural battlefronts, same as schools. Remember, it's the drag queens are in. You've got drag queen story hour. Drag queens can come to libraries. They run tours around the country right now. Any parental protest around that has been pushed back.
Yeah.
So I mean, it's a cultural frontier.
Well, also libraries are also dying out, aren't they? They're being replaced by food banks in quite a lot of places. That's another story. So that's the library, right? So what else, King?
So from that point, if you can imagine, at this point, I'm starting to feel a little bit of trepidation entering into the weekend, thinking, gosh, is this going to affect my job and my active role as a director of my company? And the weekend passed, Monday comes, and then it then happened. My fears came to pass, in which the directors get a call for an urgent meeting, and this meeting was to discuss the tweets in which I had put out. I wasn't invited to this meeting. It was the other two directors that had this meeting, and essentially the officers within this particular council said that I must resign, and my family and the other directors must distance themselves from me publicly and openly on our website, etc., and our social media. Otherwise, we could lose this quite substantial contract that we have with this council. That's when
another council now, not Northampton Council, and so it's a different thing. And the council was saying, unless you resign from the board of this company, they will cancel their contract with the business.
Correct. Yeah. Absolutely.
And under that pressure, you did resign, I think. Is that right?
Yes, I did. So it was a forced resignation to ensure that we preserve not only the jobs of about 45 people service in this contract, but also that this it was a substantial care contract, and on fear of losing it, I did then resign from my role as a director of this business. Yeah,
and also because it's difficult, but the truth is that other people around you, because such is the fear, the general fear, is that it's not just the pressure that comes from them, but it's the pressure then from the people, the friends, the family.
Well, that goes into a question here we've got from Heather Scammell on YouTube. King, do you have a supportive church and prayer support in your area?
So thank you, Heather, for your question. I do now. Yes, I do. I'm at Compass Church in Wellingborough, and they are praying for me and they are supporting me. Thank you for your question.
Fantastic. Well, that's very encouraging to hear. That's great.
Yeah.
Andrea, what is going on here? This reaction that this extraordinary.
Have we got through every cancellation?
I don't know.
We've got the Groundworks, the local Conservative Party, Weavers Academy, the school, the library, your company, the company that you with your fellow directors have built.
Yeah.
Anything else? Is that it?
Conservative Party generally?
I think it's important for me to mention about the resignation from my role as director. Yes, it was forced. Yes, they gave us an ultimatum, the council. But ultimately, I was thinking as well, the fact that it's now got to this contract, is it going to affect the other contracts as well? These, across the whole business. So under that significant pressure that what I've built for the last 8-9 years could essentially crumble because of a tweet in which I was sharing something that's biblical, canonical, if you like, would crumble. I resigned, but it was under undue pressure.
Well, I just want to give an example that's also just a quick sort of similar example, because it happened exactly 3 years ago, I believe now. Sometimes the years, I slightly lose track of the years, but it was in response to pressure, LGBT pressure. Barclays Bank closed the account of Mike Davidson because and closed his ability to access banking. And I think that and we've just resolved that in the past month or so. And that's also to say,
I think it was the organisation's account rather than Mike Davidson's own account.
Yes, it was the organisation's account, because they said that they, but I think again, what we can see here is the sheer pressure that was a bank that came under that pressure from the LGBT lobby, closed his access to that service. But similarly, the pressure that people come under just generally, and the people around them, because there's a sense in which unless there is this is what I want to say generally to the church, it is loving to speak truth. It is loving to stand with King and to speak truth to the culture, to a culture that's hurting and crying out for the truth. But we have all been intimidated into silence. And that doesn't ultimately do the culture, the library, the workplace, the Conservative Party, the local council any good at all, because it's the truth sets us free, and biblical truth doesn't just set individuals free, but it sets cultures free. And we've become
the only way to resist tyranny is to speak the truth. I mean, that is the only way. And what we need is more people like King who are prepared to stand up and say the truth and not compromise on it. And that is the only way to resist it.
Andrea, sorry, Tim, to interrupt you.
You go ahead.
It's just because you mentioned about all the cancellations. I remembered one I didn't speak about. The Northampton.
Yes, I didn't think I was quite up to the right number. I've been writing them down. I think there's some more I was saying.
The Northamptonshire Healthcare Foundation Trust, the chair of the board calls me up and tells me that I need to be suspended as well, pending a discussion with the board about my future with them as well.
And with regard to the Conservative Party, the CCHQ, which is the Conservative Central Headquarters Office, have instructed your councillors to suspend you, haven't they? And they've now suspended you indefinitely.
Correct, yeah. So the local Conservative group suspended me for 21 days, is now indefinite as per a meeting that's just been had on Monday night. And the CCHQ are trying to pass the baton over, the blame, over to the local group, whereas it is from pressure from the membership governance team within Conservative headquarters. So that's
who then conducts the investigation? Is it CCHQ or the local group?
It's not the local group. The local group it has essentially been relieved of all investigation obligation, if you like. It is directly from the membership governance team at the Conservative campaign headquarters. That's categorically clear to me from the emails that I've received already by CCHQ and the emails that's been sent to me by the leader of our local Conservative group.
So CCHQ are now conducting an investigation into you. You've got no opportunity to reply or participate in that you're aware of so far. and you've got no timescale of when it finishes either, other than it's going to be more than 21 days because they requested more than 21 days suspension. And in the meantime, there you are, suspended.
Yeah, so I'm suspended indefinitely. The investigation has started because I've received the email from CCHQ. I need to, respond, and I'm not sure what will happen after that. Whether they want to see me in person or have a Zoom meeting or whatever.
Right.
But those are the steps that's been taken thus far. Yeah.
And like I say, I think what's interesting in terms of the CCHQ's response in the public realm on this, because they've been approached by the media in this, is to say it was a local decision. But King is very
Which
clear.
is a lie. That's not true. That is actually point blank a lie. They've told the local councillors to do it. It's not a local decision.
Yeah.
And, on GB News got, obviously you were interviewed by Jacob Rees-Mogg, weren't you, this week? And he said that CCHQ categorically denied being involved, and they categorically are involved. So
yeah. What's quite surprising is that I have the emails from them that specifically states that it's been dealt with centrally, that it's been investigated centrally. But I'm not sure why they are deciding to take this, standpoint, saying it's been dealt with locally. All the councillors locally, including the leader, can, will say that it's not been dealt with locally. I know it's not been dealt with locally. They've gone over the local group, and they're dealing with it themselves because, as they sort of quote them, because of the seriousness of the allegations.
Yeah. So, Andrea, what does this mean? Does this mean that nearly every organisation out there has been captured by LGBT ideology? I mean, we had Felix de Gaulle on last week. He's not discriminating against anyone, and he's had a job offer withdrawn because of his views. Here's Councillor King. He's had multiple cancellations and suspensions, whatever, because of his views. All these organisations are captured by LGBT ideology. Is that not right?
This one is quite the situation with King is in a world of extraordinary things at Christian Concern and extraordinary cases, to be cancelled by, or to be forced to resign from a position in the way that this has happened, and this occurring because of pressure from the centre of government, from the centre of the party that it currently is in power, is really it's really sinister. It's very, very serious. And
King has not discriminated against anybody. He's not mentioned any specific person. He's not said anything anywhere near the boundaries of being illegal at all. He's just expressed the biblical view that pride is sinful, and therefore surely we shouldn't celebrate it. And he gets this reaction.
Well, the point, and this is because it's the language in the world of human rights. It's the language in the world of this particular characteristic that is often defined as immutable, homosexuality and so on. That I must be respected. This must be approved of. We must celebrate this. We must show that we are equal, inclusive, diverse, and we will do this, and you will promote it, and you will say that it is a social good. And unless you do, you are not fit to be in a public office. You are not fit to be a Conservative Party councillor, a Conservative Party candidate. I mean, and I think that we only have to spend this time with Councillor King to see that this young gentleman who has built a business and has been serving his local community, who's passionate about his faith, is exactly the kind of person that we should be celebrating as in public life.
Yeah.
But the thing that everybody wants, though, they want, if Christians are going to be in public life, they have to be the kind of Christians that are acceptable to be in public life, which is the kind of Christian that generally is pretty much on mute or promotes a sort of gently God, and that promotes something that is acceptable to everyone, versus this savior and king who demands radical repentance from each one of us for the sin that we've committed because of the blood that he shed on the cross, so that we might be made whole. And this is the message that King really believes. He's seen it in his life. He sees it through his own testimony. And that motivates him to speak the truth. But for this one tweet, this happens to him. Let me just say as well, like another case, the case of Shea Amuba, you will remember the actress who lost her position for the West End stage just at the start of her career. A fellow actor dug out a tweet that was 6 years old, where she stood for one man.
I think it was a Facebook post where she just said she didn't agree with same-sex marriage. Yeah,
it was very mild.
Yeah,
and it followed her. It followed her 6 years later, 5 to 6 years later, and she was essentially taken off the West End stage, taken out, removed from her agency, and it's been very hard for her ever since then to find work. So this is and what I would love to, what we should have seen in response to this is in every one of those situations. So, for instance, in the local Conservative Party, this would have blown over if they'd simply said, Councillor Lawal is entitled to his views. He's entitled to express his faith. This is freedom of expression, freedom of religion. In a world where there may be different views, we are free to speak. Now, in a civilized and normal society, and also in a society that's operating under the rule of law, because bear in mind, this is lawless. Councillor King is going to now be taken into a system that is equally ideologically driven. So it becomes a place where to seek the justice, to seek the truth, when in fact, generally these institutions are blind to the truth, becomes highly complex.
So, King, how are you feeling? Here you are. What is it? A week on or 2 weeks on from your tweet, and the reaction has been extraordinary to it. How are you feeling about it?
So, thank you, Tim. So I think it's been quite difficult. Of course, it has been for both myself and family. But what I want to do is, stand up and fight back against this injustice, because as it's been mentioned, it's not just myself, but others going through the same thing. And if I can encourage others to stand up and fight back, that's a great thing. It's quite interesting going through this process, because there were comments saying things within the standards inquiry that's going to be done against me as well. I've read one of the complaints, and it's, how did I become so emboldened to speak out? And that does speak to the heart of this. They expect us to be silent, they expect us to be quiet, and if you're not, then they cancel you. But what's quite startling is, interesting, is why are standard Christian beliefs and the expression of them excluded by organisations that forcefully call themselves inclusive? But that doesn't mean Christian Bible believing beliefs as what
those are excluded. Those are actually excluded.
Absolutely.
So they are the ones that cannot be tolerated.
Yeah. So it's been difficult. It's been difficult, but I'm feeling okay. I'm with the support of my legal team and a media team, I'm trying to overcome this injustice.
And Andrea, what recourse is there for Councillor Lawal from all that's happened to him? Does he have potential legal recourse in some of these things, or they're just some of it?
This is direct discrimination. That's what it is. And in every one of where he has been cancelled, he has been directly discriminated against, and we will therefore be looking to get him reinstated into the positions that he has lost. We hope that this will be done by helping people to see sense through mediatory policies at the beginning, and if not, we'll take this at a step at a time. But we are hoping that the Conservative Party, for instance, will this investigation, instead of upholding the suspension, will reinstate King with a clear apology and a full for what they have done, an admission that they have discriminated against him, and restore him to his position. Can I say also that King has had, you've had thousands, literally thousands of messages of support, haven't you, King? So again, this shows the need for people to speak out, because the clamour of support for you has been so strong.
Yeah,
yes, and I think Jacob Rees-Mogg was very supportive, wasn't he? He's obviously a big voice in the Conservative Party. You know, he asked you, what have you done illegal? Have you been banned from Twitter? They haven't been banned from Twitter, but you've been suspended by the Conservative Party. You know, he's obviously shocked by it. So, you know, are you feeling supported from people in some ways, Councillor King?
Yes, I must say it's been incredible, the amount of support that I've been given, the amount of emails that have been sent to me, and calls as well, just saying, you know, people agree with me, they stand with me, that I should, you know, continue to fight this. And I've had huge amounts of support, people even offering me money, in which of course I rejected. I'm not in this for the money at all. I'm just in this to get vindicated. I want my name to be cleared, and as Andrea has mentioned, I want to be potentially restored to the posts I've lost, and also just to clear my name, because there's been words bandied around about me that I've been hateful, homophobe, bigoted. I'm none of those things. I believe in the truth of the gospel, and my right to freedom of speech, to share and express my beliefs. There's been an intensified erosion of you know, freedom of speech and rights and belief for Bible believing Christians, and it's happened so quickly, but over a number of years. But it's sort of intensified in the last few years, and I don't want to be silent anymore about these things. But there has been huge amounts of support. Yeah.
And I think that very often, I think that again, King, what you've done is you've crossed that line for many. So many people say, this is part of, again, I want to say to the church, wake up, church, awake, arise, church, because there are, you can say Jesus is my friend, you could say Jesus is my savior even, but to say that Jesus is King and Lord of Lords, and that one day every knee shall bow, to say that Jesus rescues sinners, to say that all sexual expression outside the union of one man, one woman marriage is sinful in God's eyes, and that we need to be repent and be restored. To say those things in our current culture is like blaspheming to the current culture, and you end up being punished. And it's on Twitter, you end up being called names, as has been called names. You get labelled transphobic, homophobic, bigoted, when in fact the motivation is love. And so we've got to, but the things that these are the things that cannot be said in our current culture. We actually are meant to celebrate, and it's as old as the beginning of time. It goes right back to the beginning of creation. You know, I'm gonna, you know, I will play God in a sense, and I will go about things my own way. But we then end up in a sort of Romans 1 type of situation where we end up in sexual chaos. It's just the same old story of us believing that we can live our lives our own way, but ending up in a sexual chaos which really hurts society around us. And for speaking into that, but even just, it was just brief, wasn't it, King? It was just a brief tweet, and I found it sort of slightly amusing that you said, I thought maybe a Labour councillor might pick it up and we'd have a little chat, versus kind of a monumental.
Yeah. I mean, it was just a tweet. So I mean, as a politician, I would expect debate. I would expect some backlash, maybe some comments, and even if there were offensive comments, is their right to make those offensive comments? Is this my right to be able to say something that I want to say that's not hateful, inciting violence? But what is the most shocking thing is that my life was ruined because of the tweet. So if it stuck to Twitter, we had those discussions, and offensive or not, and we could go on and live our lives as we've been living. It wouldn't have been a problem. But the fact is that I was cancelled from everything and dropped from every organisation that I'm part of, and the attempt to ruin my life was being done. So that's the problem here. It's past just debate and discussion.
I can see a tweet here from David Woods on Facebook. Councillor Lawal may not have chosen this vitally important fight, but God has chosen him, knowing what he's capable of. I think that's right, and I hope you find that encouraging.
I do indeed. Yeah, thank you, David.
Councillor
I think that this is a kind of a little bit. I hope that I can explain this well as I begin to explain this now. There are various protected characteristics under the Equality Act, and one of them, sex, race, sexual orientation, and so on. And on the kind of new pride flag, where you have the trans and then the pride flag, you also have on some of them you now have a black ribbon as well. All right, so this is we won't discriminate against people because of the color of their skin. But what they're saying, you see, is homosexuality is innate, like the color of the skin, like color of skin. This is what, and if you refuse to say that is so, and that will be celebrated, then you discriminate despite the color of your skin. So there's all of these things are being lumped together, but it actually is entirely chaotic. It makes no sense at all. I've quite often historically been on the radio where people say to me, "You're the kind of Christian that would make black people sit at the back of the bus. You're the kind of Christian that would refuse interracial marriage, aren't you? Because you refuse to say that LGBTQI is a social good, or that you say that it is pride." And that's actually all very dark, but that is the complexity of where we get to when we are forced to argue, in the public space and across and within the courtroom and in other places and within political parties, things around the issue in languages of human rights and equality and diversity and inclusion. You're not actually inclusive enough, King, despite the color of your skin, because what you've done is you've broken allegiance, you have the highest allegiance to God.
Absolutely.
You've broken allegiance with the various characteristics.
King, we're drawing to a close now. What would your advice be to Christians or other people watching there who are maybe feeling a bit terrified of expressing what they think because of watching and hearing what's happened to you?
Well, so I will say stay true to your values and beliefs, and if you're Christian, stay true to the word of God. Understand that being a Christian complements your role in public life, as long as your expression of belief is not done in a hateful or violent way. And I'll say count your costs, count the costs of your actions, because what's happened to me can happen to, and as you've seen, this happens to a number of people. So it can easily happen to you. So just know what you're getting into when you do decide to speak out, say something, express your beliefs. But don't stay silent, because we all have a right to hold and our beliefs and express them in the way we want, as long as it's not inciting violence or hate. And I don't discriminate against anyone at all in the way that I decided to express my own beliefs. As the only black councillor in Northamptonshire, I know what it's like to be in a minority, and therefore I wouldn't discriminate against anyone anyway. But those are the bits of advice, Tim. Yeah.
Very good. Very good. Closing words from you, Andrea?
Well done, King. Well done. For in that moment, for well done for standing strong, well done for being here, well done for contending. And I want to say to everyone out there, please take this example and continue to contend. At some point, a tipping point must come. This is much bigger even than King's situation, which that's the situation, the way in which he's been cancelled across multiple organisations is very dark, and it's a warning. But that should make us feel even more emboldened to speak out the gospel in public life, because at some point, unless we do, the lights really will go off. Unless we do, we will not be in public life at all. We will not be able to speak Christian morality in public life. And what King's story is doing is highlighting that this is a reality. It is, look, we are not being killed. We're not in Nigeria. We're not in the Sudan. We're not being silenced as Christians are silenced in China or in North Korea. But this is persecution. This is what it is. The King's livelihood.
Yeah, losing your job is persecution. I know it is.
It is.
And being cancelled like that, it is form of persecution. Listen, we have a petition going to support Councillor King Lawal, and particularly focusing on the Conservative Party, asking them to completely exonerate him and vindicate him and clear him of any wrongdoing. I'm sure my colleagues will put that link up on the chats for you. There we go, christianconcern.com/stand with King. As I speak, there's 9,500 signatures already. Let's get it over 10,000 and to way beyond that as well. And thank you very much. I add my thanks to Andrea as well for your stance, Councillor King. Fantastic. Really, encouraged by your stance, and praying and acting and supporting as much as we can to that you get completely vindicated and cleared by the Conservative Party, and that people realise that they have engaged in discrimination against you for this, and you get completely cleared for that. So thank you very much for joining us, and thank you for watching. If you're watching us and listening as well, this is the last live stream of the season. This time we're going to take a summer break, and we'll look forward to seeing you again next term. But thanks very much for watching. Do follow us on social media, and see you again soon. Thank you very much.
Thank you.